morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. And oh my gosh, I how do I describe this today? So there are certain strategies being used right now that are being used to manipulate populations of people in our country. And it's, well, I gotta tell you, it's kind of, what's the word?
That's racist!
Yes, it's, I don't think they understand how racist they're being when they do this. But unfortunately, it kind of works until certain people kind of figure it out. And so this morning, we're going to try to figure it out. At least a little bit. A couple stories I got. And then there's a lot of not breaking news, but a lot of news stories I want to touch on. Thank you, GunFox61, for a great news dump this morning and yesterday. Because there's some stories that I kind of missed. And we'll touch on those. But I really, this whole thing with Robert Reich, appropriately named. Anyway, we'll talk about that after the intro. Johnny, play the intro now. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawgKnight. And stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as PDawgKnight on the internet. Welcome back to the PDawgKnight Channel. It is the 23rd of March, 2021. Happy Tuesday. Sometimes it's Twitter Tuesday, sometimes it's Tweedledee, Tweedledum Tuesday, and sometimes it's just Tylenol Tuesday, because I kind of need Tylenol after reading some of the BS I've been reading in the news and some of the stories. So anyway, hello. It's that day. I hope you're all having a good morning. I certainly am. I do have my cup of reparations in hand. I'm very happy about that. Take a sip. And also good to see some people in the chat that I haven't seen for a little while. Nice to have you all back. In fact, before I get started, I'm going to do my thing and say good morning to everybody. So, first in the chat today was Tales of Gore. Fantastic seeing you here. I've seen you've been here the last couple of days, and you get the bell for being first in the chat. Nice to see you. Also, good morning, Becca Fairley, who always... Oh, I didn't even tweet out my show today, did I? Well, you know what? Today it's just going to be a retweet Becca day because I forgot. Becca, I'm retweeting you because I appreciate you doing that every day. And I'm not even going to put it on the other platforms today. I'm just going to go with that. Also, by the way, thank you, Somnambule Nation, Grillin' Pirate Pete, and anyone else who happened. In fact, I'm going to retweet all you guys because, it just is, because I forget, sometimes you guys do it better than I do, and I appreciate that. So, also, good morning to Select a Boy. Yeah, boy. Who's in the house. Also, Somnambule Nation. Ost Sand. Saw your favorite contrarian had a message here last night. Apparently, DC needs to be admitted as a state. And that's the end of the story. I know if you don't agree with admitting Washington, D.C. as a state, you're racist.
That's racist!
Right? That's what Robert Reich told us. I'll show you that in a second. Also, good morning to Mike Savage Blarg. Good morning, not Steppenwolf, but Septis Wolf. Also, good morning, Wolf. I can't even talk. Good morning, GunFox61, the ever-loving administrator of the Discord server for the PDawgKnight channel. Good morning. Also, good morning to MCs in the house.
Stop. Hammer time.
And also TC, which I just could stand for Twin Cities, but I don't think that's it. But anyway, hello TC and MC and AFC and NFC. Also, good morning, Atsan. Also, hello. I'm not going to say those words. That's a great name. Don't say those words. You know the words you cannot say that cannot be spoken. Kind of like the virus from the country of unnameable origins. Anyway, also good morning to, let's see who else is here. I got to scroll down a while. Good morning, Data Wasteland. How you doing? Good morning, TC Ball. That's the other TC. Thank you. Also, good morning to, there's TC and there's TC Ball. They're two different people. Also, good morning to Attack Alpaca. I got selected boy already. Howard Welsh, nice to see you back. Spambot 22. Tyler F. Hello, Cracker Rob's in the house. To Ride Deos, how you doing? Good morning, Amy in Connecticut. Jesse Leon. Let's see, Renee Mayette. Advocatus Diabli, the Devil's Advocate. Anna Lynn's in the house. Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
Also, good morning, FTW Nil. Oh, I thought it was a 30-minute notification. Oh, no, I don't even know I give. Just my. Oh, you know, I kind of don't. I don't know if I get the 30-minute notification. Anyway, also good morning to, who else is here? Grillin' Pirate Pete, of course. Let's see, who else? Jonathan Peterson, W.R. Costin, Jonas Pedersen, not to be confused with Jonathan Peterson. Oh, no, is it both? Are you both here? I think you're both here. Okay, good. And also, I think that's it. I'm already down all the way to the bottom. Oh, and Furry Kitten. Hello, Furry Kitten. Nice to see you back. So, this little, little because he's a little man with little thoughts and. Okay, Robert Reich, if you're not familiar, I think he was in the Bill Clinton administration. He's a demagogue. He is just one of those POS. He'll say anything to create a stir and demagogue and try to get people to talk about certain things in a certain way so that you can be considered an awful person if you don't agree with him. Good morning, Uncle Stepdad, by the way. Also, Sean DW. Nice to see you. So he put out this garbage tweet yesterday. DC is 46% black and has 0 senators. Wyoming is 1% black and has 2 senators. DC has 120,000 more people than Wyoming. Opposition to DC statehood is racist, period. And just a garbage tweet, okay? So now if you don't agree with him, you're racist. What? Thank you, white man, for protecting all us poor black folks in your little whatever bullshit saying you have. Good morning, Hyman Lyman. That's so hard to say. Hyman Lyman. What a piece of garbage. Okay, that's just look. First of all, DC is not a state because it's constitutional. That's what they set that up for a reason. And in order to create DC, they took land from, I believe, Virginia and Maryland. And now Virginia kind of repatriated its area of DC, and I can't remember the name, what the city they named it, but the part of DC that is left, that's residential, was originally part of Maryland. So that land should go back to the state of Maryland before the Congress would be able to make it a state. I'm just saying. I don't know the details, and I wish somebody, I'm sure there's a constitutional and historical scholar that can explain it better than I can. But the idea that, okay, you either make DC a state or you're racist. Well, fuck you. And I said that out loud. that's just a bullshit argument. And if you can't make now, if you might want to try to make the argument, okay, these people should have representation in the House and Senate, fine. Give that land back to the state of Maryland then, okay? Because that's where it should go first. Hello, Paul Farrell. Nice to see you. It's just DC is not supposed to be a state. It's not supposed to be a part of any other state. But here's the article that this POS, Robert Reich, decided to highlight when he decided to make this. And that's this story from, now it's NBC News, okay? Now, but the article is, now it obviously says it's an opinion piece, analysis, yada, yada, yada. By the way, the idea of making DC, this is really about. And, they're all just a bunch of bullshitters. But anyway, here's the article that this pile of excrement brought up. Now, by the way, this article is written by David Litt, who's a former senior speechwriter for President Barack Obama, who, by the way, the Biden administration has been consulting with Barack Obama all during this presidency so far. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah. Anyway. So David Litt, former speechwriter for Barack Obama, who knows how to demagogue a couple things pretty good, says the House will conduct its second vote over Friday to decide whether to welcome Washington, D.C. as the 51st state of the Union. I don't even know if that's constitutional. I don't know if they can do that. I'm curious how the Supreme Court's going to look at that. The first time around in 1993, all but one Republican and 40% of Democrats joined to defeat statehood for the then majority black city. Even though it was home to 579,000 people and its residents are required to pay federal taxes. Well, so what? If you're required to pay federal taxes, you're in the District of Columbia, you're part of the United States of America, and you get a lot of benefits for paying those federal taxes. It's not like no money comes back from the federal government to Washington, D.C. Trust me. There's plenty of money going back to Washington, D.C. from the seat of the government. This time with strong support from Democratic leadership because they want to be able to have more power and be able to have 2 more Democratic senators. I added that part. In the wake of President Donald Trump's deployment of the National Guard and other federal forces to quell protests against police brutality outside the White House, it's expected to pass. What? What does one have to do with the other? To quell protest or to quell rioting and shit burning? Just saying. Of course, D.C. residents already know what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell thinks about the idea that the district, which, despite decades of gentrification, see, this dude's playing up the full race angle on this. And we'll get to talk about why the race angle's so important to them right now. Is still majority non-white. Might become a state. Okay, let me read that sentence again because it kind of got messed up by me giving some. Of course, D.C. residents already know what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell thinks about the idea that the district, which, despite decades of gentrification, is still majority non-white, might become a state. This is full-blown socialism on the march, McConnell, Republican Kentucky, declared in a Fox News interview last year, adding that none of that stuff is going anywhere as long as I'm in charge. It's not surprising that McConnell is against D.C. statehood. The deep blue district would all but certainly add 2 Democrats to the Senate. What is surprising, however, is the language he chose to explain his opposition. His talking points echo the last grasps of the Jim Crow era, revealing what's truly at stake. The arguments against it by Senator Tom Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, on Thursday did much the same. I would think that maybe there's more than one reason why Republicans might be against it. See, they don't want to lose more opportunities for power, and Democrats want more opportunities for power. This is a power struggle. This has nothing to do with any of these people giving a god darn blah, 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 blah about people in Washington, D.C. They don't care. Democrats want more power. Anyway, fights over statehood, of course, have always been political. Maine was separated from Massachusetts to preserve the balance between free state and slave state senators in the early 1800s, part of the Missouri Compromise. A few decades later, Republicans in Congress rushed Nevada into the Union to give Abraham Lincoln 3 more electoral votes for his re-election bid. Oh, look at this bullshit question. Listen, look at the question they put here for their little quick vote poll. Should every American citizen have representation in Congress? That's a bullshit question. That sounds so, well, of course, every person should have representation in Congress. That's not the question you should be asking. The question should be, should Washington, D.C. become a state? Because here's the thing. You could certainly make every person in residential Washington, D.C. have representation in Congress by returning residential Washington, D.C. to the state of Maryland. Then they would have representation in Congress. And in fact, I think there's some provision in when they took the land from Maryland to make it part of Washington, D.C., that states that that's the first thing you got to do. You got to Maryland should get that territory back. So I'm not even sure if this is something they can do from a congressional vote. But anyway, what a bullshit question. Should every American citizen have representation in Congress? That's not the question. It's not even worth answering. Let's see. I'm going to just test this. Let's go there. Yeah, see, this is funny. They know it's a bullshit question. Anyway, but McConnell's claim that DC statehood would be full-bore socialism is rooted in the 20th century, and specifically in the fight over statehood for Hawaii. Hawaii was in many ways a logical candidate for statehood. It was home to a sizable population, it had strong economic ties to the mainland, and the population had been asking the federal government for admission since the U.S. annexed the territory in 1898. Hello, Smarty Bear. Following the coup by white planters that stripped Queen Liliuokalani, Liliuokalani, I've never been able to say that name very well, but I'm trying, of her throne. In 1937, a congressional committee found that Hawaii met all the qualifications for statehood and voted in its favor. But a majority of Hawaii's residents were non-white, and the attack on Pearl Harbor put a pause on the territory's ambition. Even in the wake of World War II, when the loyalty of Japanese Americans was no longer actively called into question, segregationists adamantly opposed admitting Hawaii, with 2 Hawaiian Republican senators into the United States. those racist Democrats. Nothing's changed. At least, well, they say it has, but I'm going to say it hasn't. They still use race as a weapon They just use it from a different direction now. At times, Jim Crow supporters were quite clear about their motivations. Perhaps we should become the United States of the Pacific and finally should become the United States of the Orient, sneered Senator George Smathers, Democrat, Florida. But other segregationists buried their true objections behind a different argument. They urged that Hawaii was a hotbed of communism. In Last Among Equals, it's his history of Hawaiian statehood, Roger Bell writes that the Red Scare provided a convenient overt rationale for opposition to statehood based on racial and sectional factors. Hawaii was eventually admitted alongside Alaska in 1959, but only under the passage of the 1957 Civil Rights Act, which signals the beginning of the end of the Jim Crow's long hold on the Senate. Now, Washington, too, finally appears primed for statehood. Of course, if admitted, Washington would also join Hawaii as the only second majority non-white state. Before gentrification began in earnest, including in 1993 when the first statehood vote was taken, D.C. would have been the first black majority state as well, just as they did more than 60 years ago. Opponents of statehood are using the specter of communism as an excuse to vote against it. Is that what this is? Democrats are trying to be able to put themselves in power forever. That's what's happening. And Republicans are resisting it. Now, that's what I call it. And the idea that maybe, because it's not like there's any people who have a lot of influence who call themselves social democrats, are there? But again, making Washington, D.C. a state, I don't believe is a legal option. But we'll find out if they try it. Now, it is possible. Now, this is how they continues. It's possible, perhaps even likely, that McConnell's concerns are primarily partisan. Wait a minute. Well, at least he acknowledges that, right? At least he acknowledges it could be just partisan. Hello, Jedi Ghost Bear, by the way. But regardless, but it doesn't matter. See, he says, but regardless of the motivation. So it doesn't matter if his primary concerns are primarily partisan. It doesn't matter because the purpose of the pretend panic over socialism regarding Washington is the same as it was more than 6 decades ago, providing cover for institutional racism at best and overt white nationalism at worst. Really? Is that where you're coming from here? Is that what it is? God, it's embarrassing but you know what? Look, there's a reason they write this. We'll get to it. Along these lines, it's worth noting that McConnell applied his pure socialism charge not just to Washington, but also to majority non-white Puerto Rico, where the possibility of statehood has seen renewed enthusiasm in recent years. It hasn't seen renewed enthusiasm because of who or where they are. The only renewed enthusiasm comes from Democrats who want complete power. You flying piece of shit. Yes, I'm going to have a yellow mark on this stream because I'm going to be swearing a lot. McConnell's talking points then make it clear just how high the stakes are in the fight over D.C. statehood. This isn't merely an issue for the district's residents, myself included, who live within walking distance of our founding documents. Oh, you might want to take a look at those founding documents once in a while. But for whom taxation without representation is a daily fact of life. Withholding statehood from the District of Columbia is part of a far more sinister nationwide effort to disenfranchise non-white Americans at disproportionate rates. Oh, is that what it is? Fine. Absorb them back into Maryland. Problem solved. They will have representation again. Today, non-white Americans are more likely to be purged from voter rolls. Are they, though? Are they, though? What do they... Oh! Guess what they linked to for evidence for that one? The Root. Millions of black voters are being purged from voter rolls, often illegally, according to a report. Michael Harriot! Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm not even going to leave that one up. That's embarrassing for him. More likely to live in gerrymandered vote sinks. You know why they're more likely to live in gerrymandered vote sinks? Where elections are effectively decided by maps and not voters, more likely to endure horrifically long lines to vote. You know why they're more likely to live in gerrymandered areas? Because of Democrats, not Republicans. You look at the states where they've had lawsuits about gerrymandering, where they carve out gerrymandered sections to make sure they get a Democratic seat. Like in North Carolina. This is hilarious. And more likely to endure horrifically long lines to vote. Really? Because in the areas where Democrats run all the voting systems, where they don't put up enough polls, that's not because of Republicans. I hate to break it to you. These efforts to minimize the impact of non-white votes, whether motivated by cynical partisanship or explicit white supremacy. Write it down. Are a legacy of the most shameful part of American history. This is the context in which Democrats argue about D.C. statehood. That's not what he says. That's what I say. This is in context in which D.C. statehood. By the way, gerrymandering doesn't affect presidential elections. Gerrymandering does not affect senatorial elections. Gerrymandering doesn't always, I guess it does affect local elections, but the only election that gerrymandering affects is congressional elections. And most of the gerrymandered seats are often to benefit Democrats as much as some are meant to benefit Republicans. Good God. Anyway, the actual sentence he wrote, this is the context in which DC state has been denied for more than a century. Bullshit. DC was never set up as a state. It literally has nothing to do with the context which in DC state has been denied for more than a century. Really? Since 1921, they've been trying to make DC a state? Have they now? I haven't heard that one. And the president will soon decide whether to fully enfranchise more than 700,000 Americans. We know what Mitch McConnell will choose. Let's hope his fellow lawmakers choose and force him to choose something better. Great. Unreal. But, demagoguery from former Clinton administration people and former Obama speechwriters are fantastic. You know what I'm saying? All right, gang. Real quick, let me do the shill early in the show because I see something happening here. Hey! Nice to have you here. The Morning Night Live is brought to you by you, the viewers of the Morning Night Live. If you like what we do, hit the like button now or hit it when I remind you later. But do definitely hit that like button. And if you want to support the show in other ways, you can do that by sharing the stream on Twitter, Minds Gab, Parler, or what's that other one? Cloud Hub. or on your own social media by hitting the share arrow right down there. Or also you can do what Okie Native did and become a sponsor of the show by dropping a super chat or a Streamlabs donation or Cashapp or what's the other one? Venmo. Those are down there too, but no one uses those because Streamlabs is open 24 hours a day. And I'll just say what you say. And same with super chats. Thank you, Okie Native, with the Lincoln in super chats. Thank you. Who says, "Don't you remember when the GOP started a war to keep them on the plantation, or a second group to spread fear?" Or a secret group to spread fear, or Jim Crow laws, and gerrymandering. Yeah, gerrymandering was a Democrat invention. Yes, Okie Native, I do remember those things. That's all part of history, and thank you very much for sponsoring the show. Yeah, and you know that whole BS about they changed parties. In the 60s, they changed parties. No, they didn't. Robert Byrd is the one who, I said this the other day, Robert Byrd was the one who what's the word? Oh my God, the thing they're trying to eliminate. Filibustered. He filibustered the 64 Civil Rights Act. Former Ku Klux Klanman Robert Byrd. You know, Joe Biden's mentor in the Senate. Remember him? And Hillary Clinton did his eulogy. Robert Byrd, former Klansman, who was a Democrat until the day he died, and he was the president pro tempore of the Senate. He was the Senate Majority Leader for a while. Remember him? He didn't change parties. Al Gore Sr., segregationist, father of Al Gore, the climate change guru, and former senator and former vice president and presidential candidate loser. His family and his dad never changed parties. Segregationist Al Gore Sr. That will always be his dad's name in my book. Most of those Democrats never changed parties. Made Democrat well into the 90s. Oh, they changed parties. Why am I, I'm doing that thing, aren't I? Okay, it's working now. So, come on, man.
Come on, man.
Foolishness. Anyway, support the show. I appreciate all of you who are able to support the show. But there's lots of ways you can support the show without spending a dime, and I appreciate every one of you who do that on the daily. I don't know why I'm not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Don't know why I have this all set up right, but hopefully this stream keeps going. All right, let's move on. Let's see. This is a weird one. Hang on. I'm going to skip that one because I'm going to go back, kind of stay on this kind of theme right now with this particular topic. So it's kind of related. Thank you, Furry Kitten, who says with the link through Streamlabs. Thank you for sponsoring the show. Good afternoon. This is for the Gin and Tonic Tuesday Fund. The sun is past the yard arm somewhere after all. There you go. I agree. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you sponsoring the show. By the way, Furry Kitten,
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day.
we have a Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day each day. If you donate through Streamlabs, I appreciate all donations, by the way. All sponsor the show. But Streamlabs, I can track the Streamlabs one, so that's why there's only a Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Every 10 minutes, you buffer for about 10 seconds. I wonder what's going on with my stream. I don't know. Hopefully that'll stop. Anyway, this article is kind of related to what we're talking in a way, because it kind of helps you explain why all of a sudden we're getting all of this. Okay. We know there's a lot of talk about the Stop Asian Hate, right? This Asian hate crime thing. And this is a good explanation of it in the American Greatness article by Rich Logus. To democracy to Democrats, is about leveraging the aggrieved. And so they're constantly trying to create more aggrieved people. And so this is a good one. Before I go there, thank you, Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
Who says he was a country boy from the hills and hollows. He had to support the Klan. Bill Clinton describing Robert Byrd. Yes,
that's right.
Thank you, Black Hebrew Israelite, for supporting the show.
That's right.
All right. Yeah, that's. Oh, yeah, they have their excuses. Hello, Katie did skate. Also, hello, Spambot22 and Lord Stanhope. Glad you're here. So here's this article. When I heard about the Atlanta Asian massage parlor shootings last week, my immediate thought was, here come more hate crime lies at the exploitative expense of the dead. There's no evidence that the alleged killer was motivated by anti-Asian animus. Annually, 85 to 90% of murders and non-fatal acts of violence were committed by those in the 18 to 64-year-old age bracket based on known information about the offenders. With hate crimes, the FBI categorizes known offenders into two groups, 18 and over and those under 18. There were 4,734 offenders 18 and older, 865 under the age of 18. Let's apply the 18 to 64-year-old figure to hate crimes. According to the U.S. Census, there are 170 million whites aged 18 to 64 and 25 million blacks. That's nearly 7 times more whites than blacks in the 18 to 64 bracket. Per the FBI's most recent hate crime data from 2019, Asians were approximately 2 times more likely to be the victim of a hate crime perpetrated by a black person than a white. How did I conclude this? 95 whites committed hate crimes against Asians in 2019, and blacks committed 30. 95 divided by 30 is 3.2, and 7 divided by 3.2 is slightly more than 2. Out of every approximate 833,000 blacks committed, 1 out of 100 of approximately 833,000 blacks committed an Asian hate crime, 25 million divided by 30. However, 1 out of every 1.79 million whites committed the same, 170 million divided by 95. If you didn't follow that math, you'll just have to read the article yourself, because I will have it. Oh, by the way, all my articles that I read, and even the ones I don't get to, will be in the description down below under that tab that says links to the articles here. I'll add that at the end of the show. The FBI defines a hate crime as a traditional offense like murder, arson, vandalism, with the added element of bias. Thank you, GunFox61, the linking in the Streamlabs. Thank you for sponsoring the show. The Dems always love a good race war, so they can pass more oppression, and more, and the people cheer because they are mindless sheep. Remove one right at a time. Yes, that is so true. Thank you for sponsoring the show, GunFox61. And good morning, Fight for Your Rights, too. So the FBI defines a hate crime as a traditional offense like murder, arson, vandalism with an added element of bias. For the purposes of collecting statistics, the FBI has defined a hate crime as a criminal offense against a person or property motivated in whole or in part by an offender's bias against a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or gender identity. As a data and numbers obsessive, I prefer the FBI track hate crimes than not. Having said that, I've always been ambivalent about defined hate crimes, which the FBI began tracking in 1995, predominantly because our mostly worthless media utilizes these crimes as anti-white chum. Applying again the same 18 to 64-year-old category and 170 million divided by 25 million white and black demographics, let's determine if Jews and Muslims, both of whom vote Democratic 70% more of the time, should be more fearful of dopes who dress up like Conan the Barbarian at the U.S. Capitol, or of people of my demographic. White committed 172 hate crimes against Jews, whereas black committed 37. 1 out of every 988,072 whites committed an anti-Jewish hate crime. 1 out of every 675,000 175 blacks did the same. The math shows that black commit anti-Jewish hate crimes nearly 5 times more frequently than do whites. Now, I could keep going through this, but you get the gist, okay? But let's talk about, he goes through against Muslims, against, let's see, and also anti-white hate crimes. And the numbers are pretty much the same throughout each one, okay? And in fact, even against, let's see, the math shows Black Lives Matter more than what? And also more hate crimes against whites than whites do against blacks, okay? But let's look at let's be honest. Most people don't care about numbers, evidence, data, math, and contextually correct facts. Most zealously embrace their opinions because they haven't ever had to defend their opinions. Hence, why hate crime narratives carefully cultivated by the media are so necessary to keep the eyes of aggrieved members of their respective minority groups on the prize. Payback against whites. Democracy to Democrats is not about positive change or progress. It's about leveraging the aggrieved, grievance grifters, in order to outnumber or overtake or overwhelm their opposition. Even though the base of the Democratic Party is composed of affluent whites, the messaging of aggrievement is most convincingly delivered by minorities. Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Ilhan Omar, Pete Buttigieg, Charles Schumer, and Barack Obama, although Obama is cheating, he's only half a minority. Equality? Nah, these Democrats are hot to trot in pursuit of bloodthirsty vengeance. Inequality is the new equality. Because America is a young nation, there are more years in our history in which minorities, including women, were last-class citizens than years when they were truly equal under our Constitution. The progressive grift, though, is to get the aggrieved to seek pounds of flesh from white males whom they believe to be indifferent to the genuine past sins committed against minorities. Democrats have honed their tactics over a century. They get minorities to view America not through the lens of being an American, but through the lens of an aggrieved, victimized, and dependent minority. It doesn't matter the demographic, black, Jew, gay, Muslim, Hispanic, all are conditioned into an aggrieved reality in which they are the latest in a national lineage of subjugated serfs. The members of these minority groups, who instead view the country through the lens of an American, are ostracized by other members of their respective minority demographic. Per capita, aggrieved minorities are the easiest to train. They are kept satiated with a steady diet of white boogeymen. I'll include one last comparison. Do you concur that murder is the most hateful of all hate crimes? In 2019, there were 16,425 murders nationwide. 2020 murder totals are not yet finalized, but I'm certain they will be horrifying. Whites committed 4,728, 29% of these, and blacks 6,425, 39.6%. Out of every 35,956 whites committed a murder. Okay, so we get the point. And every 3,800, one out of every 3,891 blacks did the same. But worry not, the media and our federal law enforcement agencies are diligently investigating the idiot who waved a Confederate flag at the Capitol this past January. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of these types of articles, but they give you some numbers that are uncomfortable truths. And what the problem right now when they're dealing with the big anti-Asian hate story, notice how they are working. Now I'm waiting for the so during the Trump administration, they spent a long time and a lot of time and effort complaining about Trump's policies at the border and trying to wave that flag that this was anti-Hispanic. He hates Hispanic people. He hates brown people, right? But it almost seems, though, that the strategy in many ways backfired if you look at what happened in the election, because Trump's support among Hispanics over the 4 years grew, right? And it grew pretty nice. Now, clearly wasn't enough to overtake the greatest president in the history of the world, Joseph Rahim Biden. But you'd also notice that in other demographics where non-white voters voted for Trump in larger numbers than pretty much any other Republican before him. And that doesn't make the Democrats happy. That really scares the Democrats because, while they did end up getting 2 more Senate seats in the state where, of course, the vote was perfectly legit and never, perfectly pristine, they lost a lot of House seats when supposedly the greatest and most popular president in the history of the United States of all times ever, even far greater than Barack Obama, they lost, 15 some House races that were up for grabs and narrowed the House there. And so right now, and also Trump's totals among Asians was improved, and Republicans, and Republicans too were trying to help Asians because they were discriminated against in some of these colleges and universities. So now they're hyping this huge thing about Asian hate, even though we know that the demographics of the people who are reported in a lot of these crimes fall in weird demographic lines. But it's the media manipulating and trying to make everything about Asian hate. Are they trying to blame all this Asian hate on Republicans as a political ploy? Would they do that? Would they be so cynical as to do something like that? I can't imagine Democrats playing politics with a fear with anybody ever. Would they do that? Oh, man, I just don't. Unbelievable, isn't it? All right, let's move on. Speaking of Stop Asian Hate, there's no evidence yet that the Atlanta spa killings were about race, so why is that the narrative? Tuesday's horrific killing spree that left 8 people dead at 3 spas in the Atlanta area points to a grave danger of sex addictions. According to Police Chief Jay Baker, the perpetrator, Robert Aaron Long, admitted to police that he has sexual addiction issues, and the massage parlors were a temptation for him that he wanted to eliminate. That's a quote from him, not the sheriff. This motive is certainly plausible. Long was reported by those around him and by police to have been plagued by sexual addiction, repenting and then relapsing by going to the places where he perpetrated the murders. Oh, he was a customer at all 3 of those places? This wasn't just random, go find some Asians and shoot them? I guess not. At least it seemed like it. Of course, the media probably told you that. Anyway, according to the Recovery Village, a network of centers for addiction research and treatment, those who have sexual addictions sometimes turn to criminal behavior, which can be violent. As Gail Dines, writes in the Washington Post, extensive scientific research reveals that exposure to and consumption of porn threatens social and emotional and physical health of individuals, families, and communities, and highlights the degree to which porn is a public health crisis rather than a private matter. Dines notes this research demonstrates a link between porn use and violent behavior, encouraging some to view men and women as mere tools for pleasure to be enjoyed and discarded. COVID lockdowns may have also exacerbated sexual addictions. Research has demonstrated an increase in the use of pornography, pushed in part by the porn industry, which offered premium services for free during much of the lockdowns. I didn't know that. Wow, I had no idea. The Atlanta murders, tragic as they are, underscore the urgency to talk more openly about the potential danger pornography poses to society. Now, I'd love to see the research on that. That's interesting too. I don't know. Yet, despite the evidence given by both Long and those who know him that pornography and sex addiction help motivate his murders, many in the legacy media and on the left, again, redundant, seem intent on establishing the link between these murders and anti-Asian sentiment. Here, let me stop here. Thank you, GunFox61, for sponsoring the show. And GunFox61,
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day.
who says, oh, well, Marty, don't worry. Hunter Biden will make sure China gets total control over all industries and make Biden millions. Saying anything different is racist.
That's racist!
And is fake news, of course. Remember, hug an Asian. Well, there you go. I agree with you. Thank you, GunFox61, for supporting the show again, as you do. Thank you very much. Let's see. Reuters reports and here's how the media wants to take it. Reuters reports the, quote, motive in Georgia spa shooting, uncertain, but Asian Americans fearful. Well, of course they are. Hi, Ryan. I didn't see you there. Welcome. And Katie did skate. Did I say hi to you early? I don't know. But CNN argues, quote, it's no coincidence that 6 of the 8 victims were Asian American women. And attempts to link this incident to 19th century immigration laws and American soldiers soliciting Asian prostitutes in overseas wars generations ago. Yes, they certainly, I'm sure that Long, this kid, whatever, this asswipe that shot these people, is a absolute student of history when it comes to Asian hookers in foreign war theaters. Anyway, the Huffington Post even blames Trump for inciting violence against Asian Americans. Furthermore, the press is trying to undermine the idea that sex addiction is real or could have played a role in motivating violence in order to push through their claims of racial hatred. Yes, because they know exactly this guy's motivations. Asian American lawmakers like Representative Doris Matsui of California and Representative Judy Chu of California and Representative Grace Meng of New York took advantage of the limelight to highlight the systemic problem of discrimination and violence against them. You mean like in college admissions right now? Oh, I'm sure that's not what they meant. Chu stated, quote, it's clear that the individuals were targeted because they were amongst the most vulnerable in our country. Immigrant Asian women, end quote. What about the 3 white people, or the 2 white people that died and the Hispanic dude that got shot? Okay, anyway. In a White House press briefing, Press Secretary Jen Psaki, echoing the Huffington Post, blamed the prior administration for linking COVID-19 to Wuhan. Yeah, because nobody else on the planet did that, which elevated threats against Asian Americans. Capitalizing on these claims, President Biden and Vice President Harris have planned a meeting with Asian American leaders in Atlanta on Friday. Well, that's fantastic. Hello, random American. It is clear the left is trying to create a false narrative around these horrible murders in order to fit their political agenda without concrete acts of racism to point to. Identity politics often relies on accusations of systemic racism. A real act of violence more easily motivates actions, hence the riots and protests in the wake of George Floyd's killing. The left believes it gains a tremendous amount of political capital from incidents such as these. That's why they like to stand on the bodies of dead people. That's my own little addition to the article. Thank you. The prospect of another set of martyrs to push another identity group into the left's fold is too strong a temptation to give up, even if it means obscuring and deviating from the deviating from the truth. Yet we owe it to the victims of this horrific crime to prevent that from happening. So that's from a PhD at Hillsdale College, a PhD student at Hillsdale College, who wrote this. And that article will be in the tabs. All right, let's get into some. I want to, so I don't miss some of the news stuff that's on here. I definitely want to get to that. Why are these motherfuckers so racist? I'm wondering that myself, Ryan. That's a great question. All right. Anyway, let me get into some headlines because I want to make sure that you just kind of know what's happening in the world. Oh, wait. This one's actually, I forgot. This one's important first, though. Melissa Chan wrote an interesting article in the New York Post. This is an editorial. And she's saying media's trying to make everything about white supremacy. Everything. Robert Reich's little tweet here. Oh, the opposing DC statehood is racist. Oh, that's about white supremacy. Or is it just about the fact that maybe Republicans don't want to lose power and Democrats want to get more power by making sure they have an automatic... The shooter in Colorado's right. Are you... Okay, look here, Mike T. You might want to look up all the mass shootings that have happened over the last year and realize that it's not about white, okay? The ones that get publicized are white. There's 27 mass shootings in Philadelphia last year, like the worst year ever in Philadelphia. But did you recall any of them? And here's the problem. Here's what kind of annoys me because I'm going to say this, that the fact that the Colorado shooting gets all the attention, I'm going to say that's racist. It's racist that gets attention. It's racist that only the white mass shooters in suburban areas get talked about and make national news. Because the death count of black people to mass shootings last year was a record. How many did you hear about? Oh, Mike, do you know about those mass shootings in all the places where black people died? No, you don't. But you certainly know about this man bites dog event in Colorado, right? That's gangs in Philly. Yeah. Well, does that make it better, Mike? Does that make it better? You don't care about black people being shot in Philly or in other cities around the country? Huh? You don't care about that? You don't care. Oh my God, Mike, you don't care about that. You racist bastard. See how this works? You don't think the gangs are killing innocent people? Really? Tell that to the parents of children who were killed in those mass shootings by gang members. You think that's better, Mike? I don't think so. You don't care about black people, Mike. You don't believe that black lives actually matter. You only care about black lives if the demographic of the killer is something that fits your narrative. Don't even start with me on this bullshit, Mike. Sorry, this ain't it. You don't care about black lives. You don't care about mass shootings unless it forwards your agenda. Don't even try. Don't even try. Oh, those are criminals killing each other. Oh, you're calling black people criminals? Is that what you think of black people, Mike? Is that what you really? The kid who killed his whole family and the people around him because he was mad his dad grounded him? He's a criminal? You don't think the dude in Colorado's a criminal because he's white? Is that what you're saying? Do you think the guy in Colorado was an NRA member, Mike? You don't care about black people. You don't care about black people, Mike. I'm sounding stupid? You don't care about criminals dying over stupid shit? Really? What's that guy's name that died in the George Floyd Autonomous Zone? Was he a criminal, Mike? Was he a criminal? Because he was a mentor trying to get people out of that life. Oh, he was a criminal. Oh, because he was black. So all those black people dying were criminals? Is that what you think of black people, Mike? don't tell Mike to you don't have to tell Mike to shut the fuck up. You don't have to oh, he was most likely a Trump supporter. Really? What's your evidence of that, Mike? How about the guy in Atlanta? Was he a Trump supporter? Because you don't have any evidence of that either, do you? You're just making shit up. Oh, because he's white, he's a Trump supporter? Oh, so how about the black people in Philadelphia that killed people? Okay. Oh, far-right terrorism is a problem in this country. Did you read that in the Huffington Post? See, I've read the reports, the FBI report, or what was the report a couple years ago where it said all extremist-related murders were by people from the right, white supremacists. Did you ever read that article, Mike? Because I read that article very carefully. And when they do articles like that, or they do studies like that, I think that was a study by the SPLC. And then I read the study. And really, a lot of times they get their information from activist groups like the SPLC or the ADL. And when they do those studies, then you go back and read the cases because they went through all the cases in that study. I think it was 2017 or something like that. And they said all extremist related murders were from right-wing extremists. And I went and read the article. And hey, moron. You don't have to tell us Joe Biden. I've already established that we all know Joe Biden as a president. No, and well, for now, at least till 2023 he will be. Okay? But anyway, this is not an argument you're going to win with me, Mike. Sorry. Oh, you're leaving? Did I hurt your feelings, Mike? Oh, I'm sorry I hurt your fifis. You're wrong topic to bring up with me, my friend. But I'm glad you were here. Welcome, and I hope you come back. Don't even start on an article. Don't even start with that shit with me. Black Lives Matter as long as it fits an agenda for certain politicians. Anyway. But this is a good timing for the media trying to make everything about white supremacy. Yeah. Anyway, the bodies of the victims hadn't gone cold. The families had barely begun grieving when the familiar cottage industry of activists and journalists jumped in to speculate and spread misinformation on social media. What drove someone to slaughter 8 people, 3 Asian massage parlors in Atlanta on Tuesday? The clear storyline took hold. Was it white supremacy at work? A young white man murdered 6 Asian women and 2 others made the framing a foregone conclusion. Not even new information from the investigators could slow down the risk to judgment. Atlanta Police Chief Rodney Bryant said it was too early to classify the shootings as a hate crime, and the FBI Director Christopher Wray affirmed that it does not appear to be racially motivated. None of that stopped CNN from declaring that white supremacy and hate are haunting Asian Americans. Hello, Liz Blay and Gamer Valine and Hypnagogic Monk. The suspect had told the police that the attack was not racially motivated, that he struggled with sex addiction, that he was a frequent massage parlor customer, and carried out the crime to eliminate the sources of temptation. He was stopped by police on his way to Florida, where he allegedly planned on continuing his rampage by targeting the porn industry. The only piece of evidence so far that potentially supports the racial animus theory is a report in the South Korean newspaper that the shooter had yelled, "I want to kill all Asians." But let's be real. If the claim had one iota of credibility, it would have already been reported all over desperate media in search of a smoking racist gun. Nevertheless, the rumor did the rounds on social media and reporters parroted it unquestionably. Mike T, I do not allow people to abuse you, and I'm not going to allow you to abuse other people. I've already said it to other people about you, all right? But keep it up. The murder took place in the wake of a surge of anti-Asian crimes, which first gained momentum during the COVID-19 lockdowns and increased recently. Numerous videos of elderly Asians being assaulted and attacked have gone viral on social media. Recent high-profile cases such as an unprovoked attack of an 84-year-old Vietnamese man in San Francisco who died of his injuries and forced the national media to pay attention. Yet, the cognizant can only think one way, so as to ascribe blame on Trump's rhetoric sounding the China virus and the eternal boogeyman of white supremacy. Vox showcased impressive mental gymnastics to display that it was white supremacy that fueled the black Asian racial hostilities, while a sitting member of the Oakland City Council wrote in an op-ed that anti-black and anti-Asian violence comes from the same root cause: white supremacy and capitalism. Meanwhile, it was plain to see from viral surveillance videos that it wasn't MAGA-hatted assailants chanting China virus or Kung flu while as they took out defensive elderly Asians. These attacks, mostly carried out by minorities in progressive cities like Oakland, San Francisco, and New York, make it really hard to argue that the rhetoric of a former president is responsible for pulling the puppet strings of constituents who most likely didn't vote for him. Indeed, Department of Justice statistics show that while victims of violence tend to be targeted by perpetrators within their ethnicities far more than any other Asian victims are targeted more by other races at the following rate: 27.5% black, 1% white, 21.4% Hispanic, compared to 24.1% Asian. This seems to suggest that the white supremacy thesis is extremely weak. What we have instead is an emerging picture corroborated by friends and family of a mass shooter who struggled with reconciling the sin of extreme sex addiction and his Christian faith, so much so he checked into a rehab clinic for sexual addiction, blocked porn sites from his computer, and only used a flip phone in order to avoid falling out of God's grace. It all culminated in the brutal assassination of people he believed had led him into temptation and dishonor. In a way, this crime resembles more of an honor killing, a moral crusade steeped in misogynistic vengeance. He's more Elliot Rodger than Dylan Roof. The way the story and discourse surrounding broader trends of anti-Asian violence has played out reveals the media's commitment to activism, in particular, to view and dissect everything through the prism and critical race theory. That's why previous anti-Asian assaults perpetrated by other minorities were largely ignored. When such incidents finally entered the national consciousness, they were explained away with white supremacy. NBC News even published an expert view that insists that racial hatred inspired the Atlanta shooter because there wasn't a variety among the victims. You wonder if murderers now have to adopt diversity and inclusion initiatives into their moral calculus before pulling the trigger so that they would be considered just a murderer. Our media class has decided that just because an outcome of the murder is racist, 6 out of 8 victims were Asian women, and the killer a white male with incel vibes, that there is no doubt that white supremacy was the culprit long before authorities have made headway into the investigation. This is a test, and just like Covington Catholic School and the Jussie Smollett story, the mainstream media is failing it. All right, there you go. All right, let's check the headlines just some things that are happening in the world. The coronavirus, by the way, has led. This is from GutFox on the Discord server. By the way, check out the Discord server. There's all kinds of articles that people post there. GutFox, the most prolific of which. But yeah, check it out. Join the server and see what's going on there. By the way, good morning, Moonbase Radio. And Scotty Dubs, how you doing? Where's Marty reading this from? The last story is from the New York Post, written by Melissa Chen. All right, this one is from the BBC. How coronavirus led to the highest ever spike in U.S. gun sales. The FBI conducted with the death toll climbing every day, the most and most of the country under some form of lockdown, many Americans seem to be turning to guns as part of their response. And it's not just about fear over social disorder, according to experts. I am always wary of experts in that they are cited by any journalistic publication. Good morning to the gayest person on YouTube, by the way. Let's see. The FBI conducted 3.7 million background checks in March 2020. In March alone! Holy shit, the highest total since the instant background check program began in 1998. The figure represents an increase of 1.1 million over March 2019. And on the 21st of March alone, 210,000 checks were done, the largest one-day record ever. According to U.S. media, the FBI data indicates that over 2 billion guns were purchased in March alone. Illinois led with nearly 500,000 sales, followed by Texas, Kentucky, Florida, and California. Gun shops across the country report that they are unable to restock shelves quickly enough to cope with the rush. The latest figure tops the previous high of 3.3 million, which was set in December 2015, after the Obama administration raised the possibility of restricting assault rifles in the wake of a mass shooting in San Bernardino, California. According to Georgia State University law professor Timothy Litton, an expert in the U.S. gun industry, most new sales are being motivated by two factors that have been spurred on by the coronavirus crisis. The first concern is that civil society, fire, police, health services could be seriously eroded someday, leading to a breakdown in law and order. I can't imagine after all the upheaval over the last year. Can't imagine they would think that. Hello, Asia Research Directorate. Hitchcock 45 is a civilian expert. Okay. Hickok 45. Oh, okay, cool. Is that who wrote this? No, this is my Max Math. Okay, help me understand what that means. Hickok, the Asian Research Directorate. Let's see. I'm sorry, I lost my place here. Here we go. The second reason is concerns over so-called big government infringing on American freedoms such as gun ownership, which is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. Wow, I wonder who is causing that concern? Could it be President Joseph Rahim Biden? Many of the public health measures, such as shelter in place, restricting people's movement, restricting what people can buy, Mr. Litton said, raises fears among many groups of the potential for government takeover and tyranny. In some ways, these two reasons are in opposition to each other, he tells BBC News. Wait a minute. What? The first concern is that civil society, fire, police, health services could be seriously eroded someday. And the second is so-called big government infringing on American freedom. I don't know how those are necessarily in opposition to each other. It's not like the government can't be tyrannical and still leave you on the lark. But anyway, some people are worried about the fact that government's falling apart and won't protect them. And other people are worried that the government is getting too strong and is going to limit their freedom. Both can be true at the same time. Anyway, it goes on to why this is talking about how someone who bought their own gun, why they bought their gun, what the reaction has been to the great increase in gun sales and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting article from the BBC. Let's move on though. I want to get through all of these really quick. Illegal immigrants are going to be receiving $4.38 billion in stimulus checks, according to a report. Now, I know that the Biden administration has said, no illegals or no one who here is not in the country legally is going to get, stimulus checks, right? Well, here's how they figured this out. As Americans start to receive the latest round of stimulus checks, a new analysis reveals that about $4.38 billion will also go to illegal immigrants. The Center for Immigration Studies estimates that 2.65 million illegal immigrants have Social Security numbers that allow them to receive stimulus checks. Oh, how about that? This group of illegal immigrants can be described as aliens temporarily present without status, according to Steve Camarata, Director of Research for the Center for Immigration Studies. These individuals are in the country illegally and could be required to leave, yet under the current system, they are still given work authorization and social security numbers, he said. They include deferred action for children arrivals and a temporarily protected status recipient. I know I can't say that very well. Temporary protected status recipients. In addition, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services issued 882,000 work authorizations and social security numbers to other illegal immigrants in fiscal year 2020. The analysis states these include asylum applicants as well as those applying for adjustment of status and suspension of deportation, among other categories. Not included in the numbers are the 1.8 million illegal immigrants that the Social Security Administration has estimated use social security numbers that don't match their names, according to Camarata. Another 600,000 have social security numbers from when they were legally in the country but overstayed their visas. There's simply no question that millions of illegal immigrants will receive billions of dollars in COVID relief checks. So it's funny because they insist, the Biden-Harris administration. There's a reason why you need to call it the Biden-Harris administration from now on, which I'll get to in a minute. But they will. They can say they won't until they're blue in the face. They will. Also, the evidence, of course, according to the Washington Post, evidence in Capitol attack investigation trending towards sedition charges. The departing chief says former interim U.S. Attorney Michael Sherwin of Washington reiterated Sunday that he thinks charges of seditious conspiracy could be brought against certain defendants in the January 6th Capitol breach. A rarely invoked charge for those who use violence to hinder the execution of federal law. I don't think that's going to be happening in Portland. In a 60 Minutes interview aired on CBS 2 days after he stepped down from supervising the investigation, Sherwin said, "I personally believe the evidence is trending toward that and probably meets those requirements." That's going to be fascinating, I gotta tell you. "I believe the facts do support those charges, and I think that as we go forward, more facts will support that," he said. Sherwin's comments echoes those he made on January 26th when he said, "We are looking closely at evidence related to the sedition charges. We are working on those cases. I think the results will bear fruit very soon." They're trying very hard. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they can actually get those charges through. I know that there have been supposedly some organized efforts that were involved there, but I don't know that they were, other than protesting within the Capitol building. I don't know what they can, let's put it this way. This is not the first time the Capitol building has been breached with protesters that occupied the building for any given period of time, including that building, the Senate building. They tried to do it at the White House. Did anyone get arrested for that and charged with that? It'll be interesting how they push this through. Since that time, prosecutors with the U.S. Attorney's Office in District of Columbia, which led the inquiry, have charged about 20 members of the Proud Boys, a far right-wing group, with a history of violence. Well, if they know the history of the Proud Boys and why they eventually came together, they were counter violence against another, well, I would say group, but they're really just an idea. They were literally a group to counter the violence from Antifa. It's so funny, though. They've demonized the Proud Boys and made them into this almost mythical figure, even though, they exist. It's not that they don't exist, but remember, they were originally, I remember this from 2015, 2016, the election then, and when they started fighting back against the Antifa people that were constantly attacking Trump supporters and Trump rallies and college speakers and shit like that. They were a answer to that bullshit. And that's pretty much what they are. So I don't know. They've been trying to they've been trying to make the Proud Boys into something they're not. And they're succeeding, at least in the public sentiment. Anyway, I know another part of this article is that they're actually going to try to go after Trump too. Maybe they're going to try. Again, there's Supreme Court precedent over the idea of incitement, and they're going to have let's just say that that's a very steep hill to climb, and especially with clear Supreme Court precedent, I don't think they're going to be able to get Trump on any kind of incitement charge. They're going to try, though. They're going to try because that's what they want. All right, moving on. U.S. is going to share 4 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine with Mexico and Canada. The United States plans to send roughly 4 million doses. It is not using to Mexico and Canada in loan deals with the two countries, yielding to requests to share vaccines with allies. According to a U.S. official on Friday, we're able to announce that we're lending a portion of our releasable AstraZeneca vaccines to Mexico and to Canada. White House COVID-19 response coordinator Jeff Zients, whoever that is, said the Biden administration has come under pressure from countries around the world to share vaccines, particularly its stock of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is authorized for use elsewhere, but not yet in the United States. Apparently, they're still going through that process. I'm not sure why they've held up this one. Probably because it's not as effective as the other ones, and they're still trying to tweak it. AstraZeneca has millions of doses made at a U.S. facility and has said that it would have 30 million shots ready at the beginning of April. So they're going to share it with other countries since it's not approved here yet, which is fine. More power to them. Federal judge alleges Democrats are close to controlling all major news outlets. Oh, shocker. A federal judge this week said that the Democratic Party is close to controlling the press as he detailed what he described as shocking bias against Republicans. Was this in the... Okay, this is in another case, because they said that in a case against... There was a case against... let's see. Mike! Oh, hilarious. I just looked out and saw the walls are closing in. Do you know how long that phrase has been used? Holy shit. If I have time, I'll play the video. That's hilarious. Anyway, let's keep going. Federal judge said that the Democratic Party is close to controlling the press as he detailed what he described as a shocking bias against Republicans. D.C. Circuit Court Judge Lawrence Silberman outlined his opposition to the Supreme Court's key decision in 1964 in New York Times versus Sullivan, which has since protected many media outlets from lawsuits. Silberman, a Reagan appointee, wrote that the ruling is a threat to American democracy and must be overturned. The increased power of the press is so dangerous today because we are very close to one-party control of these institutions. Our court was once concerned about the institutional consolidation of the press leading to a bland and homogenous marketplace of ideas. It turns out that ideological consolidation of the press helped along by economic consolidation is a far greater threat, he continued, although bias against the Republican Party, not just controversial individuals, is rather shocking today. This is not new. It is the long-term secular trend going back to at least the 70s. I do not mean to defend and criticize the behavior of any particular politician. Two of the three most influential papers, at least historically, the New York Times and the Washington Post, are virtually Democratic Party broadsheets, and the news section of the Wall Street Journal leans the same direction. And the orientation of these three papers is followed by the Associated Press and most large papers across the country, such as the Los Angeles Times, Miami Herald, and Boston Globe. Nearly all television and network and cable is a Democratic Party trumpet. Even the government-supported National Public Radio follows along. But Fox News. Hello, Chris Jones. Nice to see you in the chat. Welcome. Thank you, Gunfox61, with another news. Supporting the show, as always. Thank you for our sponsors today. Marty, the government is going to have a very hard time to get the protesters that went into the Capitol building because it is dropping all charges for the Antifa and BLM members in D.C. and other states. That's going to be an interesting argument. In their defense, I don't know, again, look, people went into the Capitol building, should be charged. I agree. But the charges on most of them probably is going to be trespassing unless they have evidence that they were assaulting police officers. But I don't know about this edition one. That's going to be a tough one. And the idea that was an insurrection, it was a riot, definitely. And some of those assholes need to face some time in jail. Problem is they keep dropping charges for everyone else around the country, especially the federal charges on the attack on buildings and other places. But that won't influence this case, unfortunately. It should, but it probably won't. But they could argue that, why is the federal government dropping some charges but not the other? It's a fascinating dichotomy, to say the least. Anyway, if you're paying attention, the case New York Times, Project Veritas versus the New York Times, also. The judge in that case made some interesting comments on how the media, especially in that case where they were saying that they disguised opinions as facts in an article that should have, was supposedly all facts, didn't have any labeling of opinion in it. And they are allowing the defamation case from the New York Times by Project Veritas to continue. And now there's going to be discovery. I'm guessing there might be a settlement between the New York Times and Project Veritas coming up pretty soon. But yeah, it's, I'm not so, I don't know about this judge talking about how, Democrats are close to controlling all major news outlets. What's happening is they seem to have a concerted effort to destroy all the outlets and or places where the narrative isn't shared, isn't in lockstep with the Democrats right now. And they've just full court press on some of these things, like calling this thing in the Capitol an insurrection, okay? And trying to paint anyone who didn't support Joe Biden as an insurrectionist, or the anti-Asian hate is white supremacy and tied to Donald Trump because he said that the virus that from the country of origin that shall not be named is from the country of origin that shall not be named.
China is asshole.
So it's like it's a weird full court press, and hopefully people should be fighting back. What? Colorado shooter's name, Ahmad Al-Aliwi Al-Issa. What? What? Okay, by the way, someone asked earlier if I am covering the Colorado shooter thing, and no, I'm not. I don't know enough about it. All I know is that it happened last night, and I don't know anything about it. So I don't know. Are you joking, Renee Mayette, or not? I'm not sure. Kingling. Do not talk about old people kindling. Stop it. All right. Other news coming up. Let's see. Philippines says that 220 Chinese boats have encroached in the South China Sea. Oh my gosh. And the Philippine defense chief on Sunday demanded more than 200 Chinese vessels he said were manned by militia leave a South China Sea reef claimed by Manila, saying their presence was a provocative action of militarizing the area. We call on the Chinese to stop this incursion and immediately recall these boats, violating our maritime rights and encroaching into our sovereign territory. And then they have some pictures here. Some 220 Chinese vessels are seen moored in the Whitsom Reef, South China Sea, March 7th, 2021. The vessels are fishing boats believed to be manned by Chinese military-trained personnel, according to the Philippine security officials. The vessel's presence in the area raises concern about overfishing and the destruction of marine environment, as well as risks to safe navigation, and Philippines cross-government task force laid on Saturday. So, and that's fascinating. You never want these standoffs in the sea, and I hope that but the Philippines saying this doesn't cause more Asian hate around the world. Anyway, senators call for more press access to facilities holding migrant children at the border, and it's not just Republicans asking about this. By the way, I'm sure you've seen the pictures that are coming out of all the what do they call it? Kids in cages. I'm sorry. I mean, minor intake inclusion facilities or something like that. Anyway, it's funny how the new pictures of kids in cages look an awful lot like the pictures that were released over the last few years that were from 2014 of kids in cages. Funny. Who built the cages again? I'm just curious. Anyway, Mike, who built the cages? Maybe you can tell me who built the cages and how's that cages thing's going? I'm just curious. I was just thinking about this morning. You know, just not even a few months ago, was it like 2 or 3 months ago, where the big news story was that there were still 500 minors that were in U.S. custody in facilities near the border, and those that they couldn't find their parents, they couldn't reunite them with their parents because they didn't know where their parents were. 500. There were 500. I mean, just a few months ago, that was a big news story. That, man, they really suck at this. That they aren't finding these kids' parents, and now there's, I don't even know, over 20,000. Well, that's progress. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is Joe Biden's America. Just saying, Mike. Thank you, Select Boy.
Yeah, boy.
For sponsoring the show with your super chat via YouTube. Who says this dono is brought to you by the letter W for why are we not helping our own? Well, you know, that's a good little oxygen mask come down. You're supposed to, when the instructions are, before you try to help someone around you, you got to make sure that you help yourself first so that you are able, you want to make sure that you are safe so that then you're able to help other people. And there just seems to be a weird, I mean, I'm fine with helping other people, but can we fix some of our own problems first? And there just doesn't seem any great interest in Democrats from doing that. They're too busy trying to, it seems like they're too busy trying to just create crises that they can save everyone from. And I just don't know that I'm down with that. Anyway, all right, did I skip? Let me see what I skipped here real quick, because it's definitely time to go, but I wanted to make sure I got all the news articles that I pulled out. Okay, those are good. Just some additional articles that are in the pipeline that I didn't get to, but you'll find interesting read. One, the Fed bogus thing on violent extremists. Like, there's an idea that there are jihadi-like cells of domestic terrorists attempting a violent overthrow of the U.S. government, but it's unproven propaganda. It's not even unproven propaganda. It's just straight-up propaganda. You know what I'm saying? And that's the article in American Greatest. In fact, I'll put these on the screen. This will be in the tabs today, so good article here. Also, just a couple things. The Pentagon apparently has some training materials now that they're targeting conservatives in the military, trying to weed out people who maybe don't all think alike. They're politicizing the military, and that's really a bad idea. I just got to say, there's a copy. This guy contained a copy of all the materials regarding a sudden new threat of extremism used for training in the United States military. Throughout the services, service members have been shocked at the Biden blitz to root out ideas and people who stand in the way of the administration's transformative agenda. One of individual in training told me, quote, "The military is one of the last institutions left that hasn't been radicalized by progressives. That's why it's being targeted now." And there's the example here. They're going to go through a PowerPoint presentation packed with progressive ideology and misstatements of the Constitution. Designated officers are conducting the training on bases, stations, and ships at sea. The slides contain misstatements of the law and warped characterizations of fellow citizens who believe in constitutional principles. Very disturbing article. I highly suggest you read it. Again, I'll have this in the links tab. Also, Insurance companies are reaping the benefits from protests. Get in line with Black Lives Matter. The country's largest insurance companies stand to benefit from the chaos that they're praising. Following the death of George Floyd, the world's largest insurance company spoke up in favor of Black Lives Matter, even if they were paying out unprecedented claims due to destruction caused by the protesters who decided that past the peaceful protest, decided to keep going and make it a bonfire or whatever they want to call it. And those seizing the mantle, the companies issued statements and coughed up donations to support the movement. So they're supporting the movement that's causing them to do payouts. Interesting article. You can check that one out. Also, Democrats are going on in. Oh, they're trying to steal this seat in Iowa. There was an Iowa House seat that been recounted and recounted and recounted again in Iowa, and the Republican won by 6 votes. Well, the Democrats are trying to steal it. Source told Political's Playbook the Democrats are going all in to reverse a Republican victory in Iowa's 2nd District. Marionette Miller Meeks defeated Rita Hart by 6 votes. The Democrats have not taken a hard stance publicly, but sources said top people in the House Democratic leadership blessed, quote unquote, the efforts to oust Miller Meeks. House Administration Chairwoman Representative Zoe Lofgren said the members of the panel are keeping an open mind, nothing is predetermined, and that Hart has the burden of proof. Interesting, because the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee hired top election lawyer Mark Elias of Perkins Coie fame, the Steele dossier. The DCC is also covering Hart's legal fees. They're going to steal this spot, and I think the Iowans in that district should fight like hell to tell them to F the hell off. Even the Democrats in that district should tell them to step off. But, it's partisan politics, so you never know. Interesting article. Also in the Daily Caller, Project Veritas released photographs allegedly from inside migrant facilities. Now, you probably see these. Now, it's funny because Project Veritas yesterday, I think it was yesterday, said they had these exclusive photos, right? And of these migrant facilities. They had drones flying above and whatnot. And it's funny because as soon as I saw that they had published some of these photos, all of a sudden on Twitter and all around, I start seeing photos from other sources. And I think they didn't necessarily want Project Veritas to beat it to the punch. But so you can look through Twitter now and see all kinds of, from 4 or 5 different sources now that are showing pictures. Like one of the Democratic congressmen who was touring the facility took pictures while they were there. And because right now the Biden administration vehemently will not let the press see the facilities, that they've made up all kinds of bogus excuses of why they wouldn't. But anyway, moving on, Biden offers, and then of course Biden offers hotel rooms for illegals, but let the National Guard sleep in a parking garage. You probably heard this story. Over the weekend, it was reported that the Biden administration will spend $86 million in hotel rooms to house illegal immigrants as it struggles to get a handle on the immigration at the border. How do they justify spending our tax dollars to house illegals in hotel rooms when there are homeless veterans and U.S. citizens who can benefit from these resources? Now, this was, as I read this story, I had to go back and go, wait a minute. And the story here is complaining about because they're not doing it for veterans or homeless people. But I was doing some math. So they said it was $86 million. They were going to house people for 6 months. I think it was it 1,200, 1,400? I think it was 1,200 families, right? $86 million. And I was doing the math, and I'm like, wait a minute. That's $76,000 per family for 6 months? $76,000. And I don't know how big those families are. I have no idea. But to house 1,200 families, $76,000 per family for 6 months. That's way more than I'm paying for my mortgage in 6 months, or for a year, or for I don't even know how long it takes to. Of course, I'm not getting, we're in the middle of our mortgage right now, so we're starting to gain a little more equity every payment, but still, $76,000 for housing people for 6 months? I holy shit. Anyway, the article's here. And then the other two here, a federal judge, one party control of the press. We talked about that. That's this is just a story kind of highlighting the New York Post story. Then also, leaked docs showed that the Obama FTC gave Google its monopoly after Google execs helped Obama get reelected. Here's the thing, though. If they may have helped him get reelected, but somehow Trump snuck through the cracks. So whatever. But yeah, Google's thumb. We know I'll go no Google's thumbs on the scale. And then finally, in the Daily Wire, there's a good article about, as soon as I close the Candace here. Get off my screen, Candace! Oh my God. Woman, get off my screen. Okay, why is this not working? Okay, Candace demands that she stay. Hang on. Let's try this again. Do I have to refresh this? Holy shit, what's going on here? There we go. Apparently, a top health insurance provider is telling its employees not to hire white men. Okay.
That's racist!
Cigna, one of the nation's largest health insurance providers, has allegedly told employees not to hire white men as part of the company's broader critical race theory campaign. According to an internal chat log obtained by the Washington Examiner, a hiring manager at Cigna dismissed a white candidate because he did not fulfill the company's diversity standards. In the chat, an employee suggested the company interview a man with extensive experience for an open position. The hiring manager allegedly told employees that the man could not be hired or interviewed because he's white.
That's racist!
This is a good time to be for me, because, being a black man with some skills, I should probably go apply for some new big jobs, because I'm sure I could get jobs just because of that. Oh, also they here's the thing, included, so they had this training, this training on white privilege and whatnot. And some of the things they did, first of all, they were being taught that white people have white privilege, straight men have gender privilege, and Christians have religious privileges. The company defines religious privilege as a set of advantages that benefits believers of a certain religion, but not people who practice other religions or no religions at all. Including in the training was an inclusive language guide. Now listen to this, which told employees the phrase "hip hip hooray" was inappropriate language. Wait a minute. What about hip hop hooray? Hey ho, hey ho. Anyway, the language guide asks employees to substitute certain phrases for more inclusive phrases, such as, instead of saying a brown bag lunch, lunch and learn, grab and go. Now, the brown bag lunch, it's because the bag is brown, you freaking morons. It has nothing to do with race or inclusion or exclusion. Anyway, instead of saying wives, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, you say spouse or partner. Instead of saying mothering or fathering, you say parenting. Instead of master bedroom,
That's racist!
you say primary bedroom. Instead of long time no see, that's supposed to be a racist phrase. Say it's been a while. And instead of saying you're too fucking young to remember this, but excuse me, I'm sorry. Do you remember X? Well, you don't remember X unless, because especially you can't talk about the Y. Anyway, Cigna encouraged employees to read a controversial book such as Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be Anti-Racist and Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility and Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow. Morgan Stanley is mandating that job application pools meet a 50% threshold of diverse candidates. Employees were told to contact the company's human resource department if they cannot meet the requirements. Diverse applicants are considered to be female or individuals that identify as Black, Hispanic, or Asian. So Rachel Dolezal fits the bill. All right, I got to call it a day, but thank you, Selecta Boy,
Yeah,
for sponsoring the show again through YouTube Super Chats. Who says, oops, sorry, there's my dashboard. Who says, one question I would ask the Biden administration, how much money do we have left? Yeah, that'd be a great question to ask any administration. That answer to that is a big fat zero. You are right, Gunfoxy21. That deserves a bell. All right, gang, it's time for me to go. Thanks for being here at the Morning Night Live. Before you click anything, click the what's that thing? The thumbs up button down there, so that I can be validated, because you must validate black men at all times, and I appreciate that you do that. And especially if you're not black. So some of you, or most of you, probably fit that bill. Anyway, I am so happy that you were here today, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Please hit the like button, share the stream. If you're on in the comments, if you're watching a replay or going back to watch the earlier part of the show that you missed, put a comment in the comments section. By the way, who is it? There's someone who, I already talked about Tazzy. Someone else always goes in the comments section. And I can't remember the name, because it's, hang on a second, I'll figure this out real quick. My channel, oh, I'm streaming right now. What a thing. Who was it that does that? It is, whoa, shut that off. Egg W. Thank you, Egg W, for always, for commenting while you're in the stream. And also, Maria Vegeta. I appreciate you guys leaving comments in the comment section when you watch on the replay. Thank you so much. And also Tazzy, of course. And so, yeah, leave a comment in the comment section if you go back and watch that. And if you want to, donate to the show or be a sponsor, an actual monetary sponsor of the Morning Night Live, you can do that through Streamlabs, YouTube Super Chats, Venmo, and Cashapp, all in the description down below. Thank you for our sponsors today. Let's see. Okie Native, Furry Kitten, Black Hebrew Israelite. Oops, what happened here? Let's fix this. This is stupid. Black Hebrew Israelite, and Gunfox61, and Selecta Boy for sponsoring the show today. I gotta go, though, ladies and gentlemen. My name is PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is PDawgKnight, and thank you for watching today on the PDawgKnight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here.